Come on, YouTube.
I'm thinking about getting the microphone arm instead of this thing.
I got the microphone arm, and I tell you what.
I saw one that was $15, and I'm like,
No, my advice is if you're buying a microphone arm, buy the shittiest fucking one because the fancy ones are not. I paid like 11 for this one.
Oh wow, even cheaper than the one.
This thing is such a it's probably just made out of cadmium. It's so shitty.
The thing is it's it's that sort of arms with springs.
Yep, that's exactly what I got.
I wonder if I can just get like the flexi one, complete flexi.
Nope, those I have some of those too. They suck. They are so hard. They will just like move slowly, and you'll never be able to get them in the right spot. They also like droop constantly.
What if I get a high quality one though?
Nope, there's no such thing as a high quality flexi for microphones. But the high quality booms, like the ones that are like $50, not actually better than the $11 springy ones.
Yeah, no, I'm talking like, what is like the $200 one like?
Oh, the $200 ones are like hang it from the ceiling, literally just pull it down. They're so nice.
I'm not doing that.
I'm thinking about doing that.
I'm not putting anything hooked onto the ceiling.
Well, I might mount one on the top of my desk and be able to like pull it down, but they are not cheap. They're like $300-400 for that kind of thing. Because they have more than 2 articulations, like they're pretty serious biz, and they require installation. If you're not getting something that requires an installation, just get the cheapest one there is. All the cheap ones are the same. And they all break after like a couple of years.
The $30 one looks identical to the $100 one.
I'm telling you, the $70 one looks identical to the $11 one, except the springs are slightly nicer.
Here we go, $18. I don't see any difference between that and this $114 one.
There are no material differences.
Same fucking thing.
I went to B&H before COVID and was like looking at microphone booms because I was thinking the same thought. I was thinking if the microphone was just gone until I needed it, I could just like reach up and pull it down.
Here's one for $340, and basically it looks identical to my monitor arm. So
I know which one you're looking at. I think
that probably is, like stiff and awesome like my monitor arms are.
But is it worth that much money compared to
it costs more than my monitor arm does?
Yep.
My monitor arm was only like $100 or $200.
I'm telling you, for all I talk about, remember my philosophy, buy the best or buy the cheapest. I am using the cheapest goddamn arm you have ever seen. Like mine is like the cheapest one that was on Amazon. One of the springs snapped off one day and I replaced it with a spring I happened to have lying around.
Boing.
All right, guess we can get started. I've been live through that whole thing. There's 4 people watch us talk about microphones.
They really got nothing better to do, huh?
Yeah.
Can you hear that? There's a car alarm going off outside.
I can't hear shit.
Good.
It's Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we are talking about the 1977 anime, Voltes V. All right, just put a little breaks there. All right, let's start with the...
Okay, I almost bumped the space bar, but I didn't.
Oh, no. So I don't know if you ever do this, but if you use it, so it might be a useful hint. If you're recording something like this and you want to remember something happened at a particular time in the recording to like go deal with it later, if you hit M, that's the default shortcut, and it'll just stick a marker right in your recording timeline. And if you export the WAV, that's the metadata.
All right, it put a marker there. Right.
So if you export your WAV and you fix your metadata problem, I can take your WAV and I'll see your markers.
All right, fine. Well, we'll see.
Yeah?
See about that.
All right, I guess I'll start with the opening bit. So a few of you pointed out, and I was aware of this, when I switched to having that fancy, completely black background behind me recording Geek Nights in the live streams, I was also using that at work to like get rid of the background. And it's nice, but you might have noticed I was a little bit washed out and white. The problem I ran into that I had to actually spend some time to figure out and deal with
was because it was black. The camera was trying to adjust the exposure.
Yep, because the camera is a webcam and it's trying to be clever and not too professional. It tried to do a bunch of too clever crap, and it was a terrible idea. But it wasn't just a simple thing of go in and like
Who
tell
told
it.
you to choose black? I mean, you could also tell the webcam to, if you had a real camera, you could tell it, hey, when you're calculating exposure, just look in this area of the frame.
Yep.
You could do spot metering, center weighted metering, or you could just do exposure compensation and be like, yeah, minus,
Yep.
3 or
Basically,
whatever,
because
minus
this
1 stop.
webcam doesn't have like the controls on a regular ass like professional camera.
There should be software that comes with it that can let you.
There is. So that was the thing. I had to install that Logitech software that I've never used in my life.
Yep. And there's a little slider. You can slide it.
Yep. And I slid the slider, and it was amazing because when I slid the slider by default, it didn't actually change anything. It kept me washed out, but the background got darker. Like it did something weird because it had some automated logic in it. It was trying to prioritize for exposure in quotes instead of doing the thing I would expect a camera to do. So I had to turn off like all the automation and make it all 100% manual, and then I could fix it.
Yeah. I mean, even the world's most expensive, best cameras that you can buy, right, are only so smart at figuring out, there's a person there, expose for the person and let the background be, but sometimes you don't want to do that. It's like that is why you need to, no matter what best automate camera you have, you need to understand photography to some extent.
Yep. But there is this weird danger zone on the lowest end of prosumer and the highest end of consumer where you'll need those kinds of capabilities, but the interface is still simplified and automated in a way that either you can't access that functionality directly or it tries to abstract it away. And even if you know about real cameras, you have to figure out what this slider that has weird labels is actually doing before you can correct it.
If you want to take a photo of the classic example is like there's just snow everywhere, so it's freaking white everywhere, right? And if you just take out a camera and just take pictures, no matter even the world's best camera or an old iPhone, it doesn't matter. It's going to make the snow look gray, even if your eyeballs tell you the snow is white, just because that's how it works, right? So
it's like taking a picture of fire. Good luck.
Right. On your iPhone, you're going to have to, there's you can drag up and down in the camera app, the default one at least, to, there's a little picture of a sun and you can drag it up and down and you're going to have to, probably drag it up to fix your snow and make your snow white, right? Snow white. There's nothing you can do about it. Even the smartest iPhone can't determine that it's it's not actually a gray wall and that it's snow.
Yep. So I did sort all that out. And the other problem I was having is that because my microphone arm isn't long enough, because it's the cheapest one, I have to sit really close to my monitor. And the problem is I have a really fancy monitor. So the other thing that was messing this up is if I have a white tab open in front of my face, it's like a spotlight. Like it's so bright. But it was all easily fixed, and now I have a pretty good setup, so now I'm good to go. I was only mildly annoyed that I had to actually install the software, because I generally have this, I know you do this too to a degree, but if I buy like a Logitech mouse or like anything fancy, like a fancy keyboard, and it has some software that you need to use to configure it or set it up, I try to avoid installing that software to my detriment and at all costs.
I do try to avoid installing that software, but more recently I have had to basically relent. For example,
between the 8-bit toes,
my mouse has like LEDs in it, and I need the software to change the color or to disable the LEDs in the mouse.
I had to install the software. Once I installed the software, guess what I could do? I could turn off the fucking light on my mouse.
Right. The cooler on my CPU, there's software for that will let me turn off those lights.
There's two softwares. There's the NZXT one if you have NZXT stuff, and there's also the Asus Armory that controls like the lights that are on RAM now.
I don't have that because
Emily's motherboard has lights on it.
I only needed the
RAM.
The NZXT one.
The RAM that had lights on it was significantly cheaper than identical RAM with no lights.
I could
I'm not even joking.
If my motherboard has lights, I think they're adjusted in the UEFI directly. I don't think I have to install Windows software to deal with that. Yeah, that's life.
So yeah, in the news, there's actually a lot to talk about today, so we might give a few of these things a short shrift. But first off, Wolfwalkers, if you're not aware, like we reviewed it, it is one of the better animated films ever made. Like, it is a phenomenal film. It's one of the best animated films I've seen in recent memory. And of course, it got nominated for a bunch of Oscars. Well, a bunch of Annies, and it got nominated.
It's not Akira, but it's up there.
But I hate to say this. On one hand, it is significant that it was nominated for Best Animated Feature, as it should have been. But I am confident it will not win it, and that regardless of the relative merits of these two films, I'm pretty sure Soul's going to get it because it's Disney, regardless.
Because the way the stupid Academy Awards work is they let you vote on things you haven't seen, right?
Yep.
And it's just mostly old white guys voting, people who are members of the Academy voting, right?
Yep. I'll never forget when Song of the Sea was nominated, and then Big Hero 6, which, not saying Big Hero 6 is a bad movie, but it isn't even in the same, like, remote tier of what Song of the Sea was.
No, not even close.
And when that one unnamed Academy member said the words that they didn't vote for the Chinese movie and they voted for the Disney Pixar, whatever Disney Pixar thing comes out is what a lot of these Academy members vote for without even watching them.
Yeah, not even what the nomination process is, right? And it's like, not shitting on Shaun of the Sheep. It's
probably a fine movie.
The people who worked on that probably worked very hard and probably made something. I'm obviously never seen it and probably won't ever see it.
But I doubt I would watch it and say, wow, that blows Wolfwalkers out of the water.
Right. I'm sure children would watch it and enjoy it. And it's probably, very well done and such. But is it Oscar worthy? Right?
Yeah, because remember, the Oscar ostensibly is, do experts agree that of all the films in this category in this whole year, this one was the best of them? There might be a year where all the movies are shit and Best Feature is a garbage movie. Like, that could happen. But
right. It's ideally speaking, you should be if you made good awards and not shitty ones, and you were going to use the same sort of nomination and then award process, because there are other processes you could use that look nothing like that. But that's, the process that most of these awards have come to. You should look at every category and basically, like, every single nomination should be a hard choice, right? And if something obviously, like, is like, no way that could win, why is it shouldn't even be nominated? I think they have a thing where, like, they have to nominate, like, a certain number. It's always 5, I think, right? Or it seems like it's 5, at least. I'm probably wrong. But it's like, it shouldn't, if you're going to use a nominate and then award process, if there are only, like, 2 things that, like, could win, you should only give out 2 nominations, right? You shouldn't be like, well, we have to nominate 5 just because arbitrary number.
I could argue that
if 10 things and it's a tough choice between all 10, you should have 10 nominations, right?
Well, the other thing, I think we even talked about this at GeekNights that would be interesting. One, you got to find a way to make the Academy Awards at least, like, force these people to watch the movies. Like, they should all have to take a test, like, at some point to prove that they saw the movie. And if they fail that test on any movie that they had a say in the vote for, all their votes get discounted.
I think they should just
name one character from Wolfwalkers. If you can't do that, your animated feature vote doesn't count.
I think it should just be done, if I was in control, right? What I would do is I would get together, right, this audience, right, of a diverse audience representing, like, the general populace, people who know about movies, people who don't, people of all sorts of colors, shapes, sizes, ages, right?
Like, nominate the Academy every year.
No. And I would pay them money, right? You get paid. It's because we're going to make you watch a lot of movies. That's time. You should get money for that, right? And the Oscars bring in a ton of money, so they have money to pay these people, right? And what you should do is you should randomly assign the people to a category, right? So you might randomly get assigned to a category you're familiar with or one you're unfamiliar with. So you should get a nice mix of people who are familiar and unfamiliar. And then you sit the people down and we can go by something. We can't make them watch, say, for example, in a category, every animated feature film from the whole year. That would be impossible, right? But we can obviously pick based on some other factor, like maybe gross, right? The top 10 grossing ones to even qualify to get watched or something from anywhere in the world, right? And then we would say, okay, you're going to have to sit here over the course of 2-3 days maybe and watch all these movies. And you're just going to fill out little survey cards after each movie. And then at the end, a final survey card. And that will, we'll then use that to determine who won. And that's, something like that.
But I guess Wolfwalkers honestly, like for real, deserves this Oscar, and I am so confident that Soul's gonna get it instead. Even though I watched Soul, it's a fantastic movie.
The only, it's not that I don't think that. I mean, I also agree that the probability is in Soul's favor, knowing how the Oscars work. But I am not giving Wolfwalkers a 0% chance because there is Apple money behind it, right? So
yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's not 0%.
It's not. I'm not saying it's it's not zero, but
I'm just saying I am in a pessimistic mood.
Thinking like 80-20, 80-20 for Soul.
Just because of the fact that the exact same thing happened with Tom Moore's previous movie.
Of course. All right. So other anime news. If you don't know, Discotech has been saving the U.S. anime world for the past however long they've been doing it. And they love lately what they've been doing is sort of, Apple-esque sort of keynotes where, they're not at a convention. They're just dropping like big piles of license news all at once, right? In these tweet threads. And the last time they did one, we reported it on the news and we're doing it again. So good marketing job, Discotech. So what did Discotech drop on us this time? Number one, they licensed Brother Dear Brother. They're gonna
hot damn. You don't have to like this show, but this show is very important. This is one of those shows I think we've reviewed it on GeekNights in an ancient time.
The manga for Brother Dear Brother is made by the same person who made the manga for Rose of Versailles.
Yep.
It's legendary in many ways. It is not up everyone's alley, but if you're a Rose of Versailles liker like I am, it's like I've known about Brother Dear Brother.
I watched it all.
I've always kind of wanted to see the deal, but I never did. But maybe now's the chance. Maybe it's because it's coming. Right?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna buy Blu-rays, obviously.
It's one of those shows where you may like it, may not like it. Just like Evangelion, I respect that some people don't necessarily like Evangelion, but it is important to anime and animation in ways that unless you see it, you might not realize. Brother Dear Brother inspired a lot of anime that came long after, and the echoes of this show still reverberate today.
Yeah. But yeah, they said that the license period is unusually short. So that means that they're basically going to release Blu-rays and then their license might expire pretty much immediately. So you have to buy those, I wouldn't buy Blu-rays, but you're going to have to jump on this while you can, right? Other news, a show that doesn't seem old, but actually is ancient and also legendary, Sergeant Frog, they licensed that. They're going to release all 358 episodes in successive SD Blu-rays, because you can fit a lot of episodes on an SD Blu-ray, and the show wasn't in HD to begin with.
That is 2.7 Sailor Moons.
Right? So Sergeant Frog is just, a legendary kids parody comedy show. It's been around a super long time.
I've seen like a smattering of random episodes. It's funny. It's not something I would necessarily seek out and watch all of.
But I think it's just a significant show, whether you care about it or not, right? So to release all of it in English is something.
It's funny, one thing that is significant to that show in terms of like anime fandom, especially in America, but also in Japan, is that the closers were notable for having dances that people would emulate.
Mm-hmm. Some other small shows, they got Kashimashi something, I don't know what that is. They're releasing Nyanbo, which is basically a cat version of Cardbo from Yotsuba, right? It has this like a little CG anime, Nyanbo.
Magical Girl Ore.
Magical Ore, right?
Ore.
Some other stuff, right? The big news, which we talked about last time, how they couldn't find the original masters for Project Echo. So they were using like this magical restoring device that would basically, do the best job it could with the best Laserdisc sources they had available, right?
Yep.
What happened is Robert Woodhead, if you don't know Robert Woodhead is a legend in the U.S. anime industry, created Anime Ego, which I'm pretty sure is gone now, but Anime Ego was basically making the best and legal anime releases back in the 2000s, 90s even, right? Very legendary, important person. Robert Woodhead went to some film vault somewhere, and apparently there was just like the way it was organized there, like the catalog or something was messed up. I don't know, a misspelling or a miscategorization. And Robert Woodhead knew how to find the Project Echo masters that were definitely in that vault and were just, not labeled or placed properly.
Yep,
for some
that
reason.
means the Project Echo re-release will now be from the original 35mm print instead of that very clever previous solution, which was pulling the raw data off of the laser discs and doing the best they could.
Yep. So we're looking forward to this Project Echo release here.
Project Echo was the third anime I ever saw. And
maybe when it comes out, GeekNights time.
I think it still holds up. I bet I have not seen it in like a decade. I'm pretty sure
I haven't seen it in forever.
I'm confident it will be just as funny to me now as it was when I was in 4th grade.
No, we need Echo to go outside and find whoever's car alarm keeps going off. Of course, Echo could just throw the car into the river and then we'd be fine, right?
It's the fact that as a kid, I didn't get that it was a comedy and I kind of just treated it as a superhero movie.
All right, other news. So everybody knows about, you think about like legendary anime, directors. We got our Satoshi Kons. You got your, Miyazaki's, obviously, right? All those people. There was a person that is not often mentioned, right? Who was named Yasuo Otsuka. And Yasuo Otsuka wasn't like a director. It's like an animation director, right? But Yasuo Otsuka was sort of like even the before times. Right, he was like the mentor to the Miyazakis and the Isao Takahatas of the world, right? He
joined Toei when it had a different name in 1956.
Right, so he was like, he gets to Toei, and it's like, Miyazaki's working on Horus Prince of Sun as like a young guy, and when Otsuka is already the old guy there, right? He worked on a lot of Lupin movies. Future Boy Conan, right? All these like super old, much older anime, and then retired at some point. But yeah, the news is that he passed away at the age of 89. I'll take 89.
Yep.
I can't complain about that. But still a sad news. Such a legendary figure in the anime industry who does not get the deserved attention, right? Not being a, primary director of super popular things that people know about today, right?
Yep.
But super important, right?
Yep. If you've
the
never
same way that like Ip Man, who supposedly taught Bruce Lee, right, didn't get the attention, right? Bruce Lee got all the attention until more recently. People are like, oh, Ip Man, because someone made a good Ip Man movie, right? This is sort of that kind of deal.
So instead of news, I've actually got 3 Geek Bites because I've been watching a lot of animation lately, and there's a lot of really good stuff out there. I'll go brief on these because I'm pretty sure we'll review all 3 of these on Geek Nights at some point. But first, I know I mentioned this. I've seen an entire arc now of The Great Pretender, a recent anime.
It's on the Netflix, right?
It's on the Netflix. It's got Cowboy Bebop vibes, like for real. Like, there are echoes of Cowboy Bebop.
Netflix is finished filming, supposedly.
Yep. It's also got some big Lupin vibes. And what I'll say about it is that it is one of the better anime I've seen in a long time. Like, it is, that feeling when you're watching a show and you kind of like it, you watch a few episodes, you pause, maybe finish it later. But when you watch a show and an episode ends and all you think is, I just want to watch the next episode. This show is that. Like, this is the kind of show where if we were still running RIT anime, we would have shown the first 4 episodes and would have probably done the marathon like the following weekend.
If we were running an anime club though today, how would it work getting like Netflix permissions to screen things?
You know what we should do? We should ask the RIT Anime Club. I got a lot of contacts there. Let's see how they do it. I'm curious what they do.
Yeah, I'm curious what the deal is now. If like, back in the
we
day,
definitely flew fast and loose. Like, one of our favorite techniques was to send a letter to the anime studio or the company that had the rights, who we knew would probably say no. And we'd basically say, hey, we're going to show this on this date in our club. Let us know if that's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
And either they wouldn't respond or the letter would come after we'd already shown it.
Yeah, and they're not gonna, you're basically betting. Like, if they came after you with a lawyer, it's like the court would obviously see that you were doing this not in good faith.
Yep. And if the court came after me, I would have said, this is a club and a college. I hereby resign from the club.
Yes, I'm not legally responsible for the things.
Yeah,
it's
guess
called.
what, anime kids? Now that it's been 20 years, I can spell the sausage and how we actually ran the RIT Anime Club.
Yeah, it's like the school is the one who's gonna have to pay, not me. You know,
Yeah,
I guess they could academically, they could kick you out of the school if the right, but you know, they.
I was just the facilities coordinator. I had no idea what the librarian was doing. But The Great Pretender is real good, and it is apparent how good it is from the first episode. Like, I promise you, if you watch one episode of this, you're probably going to be into it. This is an anime.
What are they pretending?
They're con men. It's the Sting.
Oh.
This is a con artist show. The show starts following a small-time con artist in Japan who gets conned. He gets conned himself by a bigger con artist, and it just escalates and escalates and escalates.
And then learns from the master con artist.
This show goes from I am pretending to be the water inspector to try to trick you into buying a filter to Breaking Bad with even bigger stakes, like within a couple episodes.
To be the prime minister.
Episode 2, they're running a scam prop plane racing company in Singapore, and like it is just going off the charts.
Okay.
The show is great.
What else did you watch?
So we watched a recent movie. This is a Chinese animated film from 2019, The Legend of Hei, Hei. We watched it, I think, with GeekKids and the Children's International Film Festival. I don't know how to watch it otherwise, because that's done now.
There's an official trailer. Oh,
there is
a nice movie poster with like a cute little kitty.
This movie is about that kitty. It is beautiful. The characters are great. The dub, good enough. Like, it's a pretty good dub because the subtitle version wasn't available, at least when we watched it. I highly recommend this movie. I think it is specifically up Scott's alley. I have very little bad to say about this movie. I enjoyed it to the end. The ending was good. The plot was good. The characters were great. It moved quick. It had a lot of anime tropes that were good, but it also did its own thing. It's very clearly a Chinese movie informed by Chinese sensibilities, Chinese animation. You should watch it, and I'd like to say a lot more about it that I think we should save for a review. This is a must-see movie. If you like animated movies, there's no reason not to watch this movie.
It does appear that on the New York International Children's Film Festival.org website, nicff.org,
yep, that's where we watched it.
You can still buy and watch movies from the festival from this year. It was online. So
I think what expired for us is we bought access to the festival itself. Like, we watched all the shorts.
You can get an encore pass for $60, an all access pass for $100. Take your time, watch the whole slate whenever you want with an all access pass valid through March 21st. So if you buy it for $100, you got 4 days. You got 3 or 4 days, basically, depending on where you live and when you hear this, or maybe 0 days. Maybe I'll have to watch The Legend of Hei real soon.
I think you will specifically like many parts of this movie.
I guess Sunday would be the end. But yeah, it looks like you still have time. That's the point.
And third, I watched Raya and the Last Dragon, the new Disney movie.
Oh, okay.
It is honestly pretty fantastic. There's a lot to recommend this movie. I think the things that I would want to say about it are that, one, it's got a really cool dragon character design who is featured prominently. 2, mostly female cast. Like, it's mostly women. There aren't like main dudes in this movie, which I think is a good step for Disney. And 3, it's just beautiful. Like, I want to watch this on the big screen once that's safe to do, because I don't think our little shitty 1080p like failing television really did this movie justice.
Yeah, it is actually sort of because the TV we have, the 1080p TV we have, it's 50 something, maybe it's 50 inch, I guess, I don't know, but it's like, it's plenty good, right? There is nothing wrong with it. It's not,
Yeah, not like mine that is actually failing bit by bit.
Right. But I bought a 4K monitor, so it's 4K content is still quite rare.
Yep.
But occasionally there's like a YouTube video that's 4K, and it's like, wow, is it nice?
I remember because I got these 4K monitors a while ago, and you came over, and you saw how long ago this was, and I had Auto Chess open before Geek Nights because I was finishing a match, and you were
go so good.
yeah, you were like what? And I was like, Scott, it's 4K.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But it's like, yeah, I'm still not going to get a 4K TV, though, until that one breaks or until lots and lots of content is 4K.
Yep.
Not just the occasional YouTube video, right? Or Netflix.
But this movie is good. Like, I like this movie a lot, not just because, as if you know me at all, you know how into dragons I am, but I like that dragons featured prominently and didn't just, like, die at the end of the movie like usually happens with dragon stuff. But, yeah, like, the ending is good. And I like what they did with it, and I'm being obtuse on purpose because obviously just go see this movie. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But the other thing I'll say about it is that I saw a lot of people online complaining that the dragon was too cutesy, too feminine, or too My Little Pony looking. And I would say that the dragon character design is what makes this movie great instead of just good. The fact, like, this is a My Little Pony looking character design, and I'm here for this.
Anyone who makes that kind of complaint is just telling on themselves.
Yep. That is those are the literal words I was about to say, and you preempted me.
Come on. We know what kind of person you are once you say something like that.
Yep.
Right.
But the last thing I'll say is that the character, the dragon, when she like comes onto the scene, like appears in the movie, you know that archetype character like Ida in the Owl House or Ryoko in Tenchi Muyo, like someone who is ancient and powerful. And she's kind of dangerous, but she's also kind of a disaster and a fuck up. Like, that archetype of character is one of my favorite tropes. And the dragon in this movie is that. The dragon is kind of like the fuck up dragon, and it's good.
How would it be if you made a story where there's like 4 of those characters?
That's Tenchi Muyo. Kinda.
Is it? I thought it was only a couple. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Owl House, there's only one, like Ida, like is the character who is that, and everyone else around her.
Aren't there like, there's several...
you know what? The 3 priestesses are all kind of like that.
The 3 priestesses in El Hazard, but there's sort of like one character. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Also, the teacher, it's not the female version, but he's the male equivalent of that. The Fujisawa sensei. He's like the late 30s, kind of a fuck up, but actually does the right thing. But like, out of that whole space of flawed disaster characters who do the right thing in the end, but are actually kind of evil sometimes too. There's something going on that I like about that kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we can jump into the next bit now. But anyway, things of the day. Scott called dibs on this thing of the day, so I'll let him go second. I was hoping he'd forget. Like, I had it open in a tab because it's so good. So I had to bring the most powerful thing I could bring. And the best I got is, you know the game Among Us? There's an imposter trying to,
It's pretty popular.
Go Google. I'm not going to explain what Among Us is. Another channel I've done before, Two Set Violin. Those 2 cool violin dudes who talk about violins and like violin playing. They did a video. This is so perfect. They made their own version of Among Us that can only be played by classical string musicians. They got a bunch of musicians together. They're going to play a piece. 4 of the people in this group, or 2, depends, like they have a bunch of different modes they tried, have the same sheet music, except there are specific sections in red that are wrong. They have to play the wrong parts and not get caught.
Okay.
But everyone else can be like, nope, I'm calling a meeting. I heard Joey Jojo. I think they played a flat, and it has voting. And
just fucked up.
They made, if you just fuck up, that like, think about it Among Us. If you just fuck up, you're going to get voted off the island anyway.
Exactly. So if you get to the end of the piece and there are still imposters alive, then they win?
Yeah, so this video is 30 minutes long. They made up good rules. Like, I'm not like, you watch the video to see. They made the rules sufficient to make this work for real, and that is legitimately impressive. Most of the time when someone says, oh, let's make Among Us, but like Fubar, like make my own rules, it's always garbage, or it's just a joke. They did this for real, and I'm very impressed by that.
It sounds fun. Something for musicians to do because they can't hold any concerts. Did you know the Met Opera basically wasn't laid a bunch of people off, and like I think some large percentage, I heard as high as like 40% of people just left New York City, 10% retired, and they're like they're basically threatening, like, if they come back to negotiate. I think was reading, if they come back to negotiate, they're going to offer them like partial money. So it's like they don't even want to go back because then they'll have a shit deal.
Yeah.
It's like they're better off.
Well, it's so bad. The New York
out.
Public Library, this is a total aside, they have a kit. If you have a library card, you can just go get. Like, anyone in New York can get this. The kit is if you are a performer or musician of some kind and you need hardware to be able to stream yourself and create from your house, they'll give you a fancy keyboard, a bunch of recording equipment, lights, cameras, everything in a kit.
What does that have to do with the people at the Met Opera being grouped?
Because the rationale for this kit is that a lot of creators in New York City have left New York City or otherwise can't create. And there's a situation around, like, New York's going to be struggling to find even like backup musicians or studio musicians, like people to fill in all the creative gaps that currently were previously filled.
I think that's an incentive to stay, right? If you can hold out through the end, right? And people don't come back so quickly, you can then demand higher wages, right? At the point where it's like, who else are you going to get? All the other people who play this instrument have left town, right? Who are you going to find to play an oboe in 5 minutes, right? It's me. I'm the only hobo in town now.
Yep. I mean, currently, the whole reason a lot of things are in New York is because you can literally say, I need extremely long, detailed set of skills, and there are like 10 people who can do that for you.
I need someone who can play an oboe at a master level and weighs less than, this amount because the stage is shoddy.
Suspended from the sky, and they have to be able to play DDR because we're making a movie.
Yeah, and they have to speak this language, and they have to learn this piece or already know it. Or it's like, okay, we found 2 candidates. You want to do whole auditions? All right.
So you got a thing of the day?
Oh, I do. I forgot. So this thing of the day, it's from that website, The Hard Times, which is basically the Onion of like video game nerdery, right? I think we've used it for things of the day before, but this particular article is, that case where parody approaches reality. But usually when parody, you can't tell the difference between parody and reality. It's usually a bad thing, right? Someone's making a satirical parody about like, something awful in the world. And it's like, no, actually that's real, right?
Yeah.
And you'll get like, not the Onion, right? It's like,
or you get like the joke is just the headline and the article isn't actually funny. It's just like to support the joke.
Right. So this article here, parody article supposedly, is about one of my favorite scenes in anime. It's actually a scene that happens in many anime. The scene where they're just showing, an empty street or, terrain in Japan somewhere, usually including homes, trees, power lines, very frequent. And you're hearing the noises of the cicadas as they sound in Japan. And it's basically sort of, if you're watching the anime, what this scene is supposed to tell you is A, we're filling up time in the episode.
Yep.
B, we're sort of pacing the episode, right, with some environmental storytelling, right? And C, it's summer and it's hot. We're like letting you know what the weather is and the time of year is. The only one I've seen where it has an even further meanings are in Lane, right? Because the power lines in Lane have an additional meaning, and those are a bigger focus in the visual aspect of the scene. And in Evangelion, because in Evangelion, I don't know how many people watch Evangelion and don't realize this, it's always summer, right? The winter has been destroyed. No one's having any babies, right? It's a semi-apocalyptic situation that they are stuck in.
Yep.
No humans are being born. It's super hot everywhere on Earth, right? Is there even precipitation?
The end of summer is an endless summer, and there is nothing coming after that.
Right. So that's why there's always cicadas in Evangelion, like reminding you, like, it's still hot. The hotness has not stopped. And then the scenes of like, characters like wiping sweat off, right, all the time because it's so hot out, and drinking beers, right? It's hot. Anyway. So here, the article that they made is what, like top 10.
Well, I'm gonna read top 10
noises.
static shots of power lines with cicada noises.
Right. So it's like, for them, they're like, it's a joke. Lots of anime have this scene, but for me, it's like sincere. It's like,
And It is.
Static
The
Shock,
list is.
Power Lines, and Cicada Noises. Those are a somewhat good top 10.
I have very little disagreement with this list, and
There's a
like,
few of the shows I never heard of.
but the
I mean,
commentary is real. Like like there's a real commentary on each one of these.
yeah, it's like you read an Onion article. It's usually not the Onion article. It's like you're reading a true story, and you're like, this should be on the Onion. This is I'm reading something on an Onion equivalent. They're writing it as a joke, but I take it completely at face value. I'm like, yeah. Power Lines, Cicada Noises. That's my jam. Hook me up.
Now to see a top 10, I haven't yet shown you my full power.
I would agree with that also.
In the meta moment. In the meta moment, we can't go anywhere, but our panels can. So if you missed the Judge Anime by its Cover panel that we did for the Crunchyroll Expo, well, basically because we couldn't redistribute that on our YouTube channel, almost the exact same panel is going to be at ZenkaiCon Online this weekend.
Okay, sure.
Because it's basically, we did 45 minutes of talking about how to judge anime by its cover, and then we only actually talked about shows in the very end. And I went back and actually looked at how we judged those shows. Gibiate wasn't as good as we hoped it would be. But otherwise, we were pretty spot on as far as I could see.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise...
So the book club book, after a year plus, who knows how long, is still The Tale of Genji, the first novel ever written by humans, and the human who wrote it is Murasaki Shikibu. I read a significant portion of the next chapter that I was reading last night, where progress is being made.
I did not read more since we did a show on Monday, but I'm continuing at a steady pace.
I am getting close to 10% complete. So
right. Maybe 10% is a good point. 10 to 12% is a good point for us to do a little brief chat in the meta moment about.
Just do 10 episodes instead of one. I feel like we can just do one episode when we're done reading 100%, like we don't usually do.
True. I think soon we'll start.
You want to read along with us, you can, or wait and we'll do an episode, and then I promise after that I'm going to at least I can't help what Rim picks for book clubs, but I will make a concerted after this incident of the book club that went on too long and a pandemic, right? I'm going to basically be like, well, a pandemic can happen at any time. So therefore, we're going to do more rapid book clubbing, at least I hope.
Yep.
Afterwards.
The key is I can get outside, I can sit in a park and read a book, and that really accelerates my book reading.
Or a beach, hopefully.
Oh my God, it's fun to lay on a beach all day reading books.
Yep. Well, anyway.
All right, so Voltes V is an anime from 1977.
So this anime was made basically, there was a whole bunch of like robot shows made back in the day, right? And this is just and a lot of them were made by like the same company. Like they would make one, it would end, for the kids, right? And then they would come and they'd make another one for the kids again, right? So there's a lot of studios involved. Like if you look at Wikipedia, it's like studios, Tokushinsha, Tokushinsha, Nippon Sunrise Toei Company, right? It was on TV Asahi. It was the broadcasting company, and it says created by Saburo Yatsude. Saburo Yatsude is not a person. It was basically a made-up name that they would put as the creator of several things, indicating that basically the same team of people, right, was basically creating the show, but they didn't actually put an actual creator's name on it the way that, Leiji Matsumoto is a real person or Hayao Miyazaki is a real person. And there were several such shows made by the same people. The one you're probably most familiar with is Voltron / Beast King Go Lion, right? Which we can do a show about someday if we haven't already. Voltron came out in 1980, early 80s, right? So this preceded Voltron by quite a few years, 4 years maybe. But you cannot help but compare the two shows because there are so many similarities, but enough differences that are significant and worth discussing, right? So it's a show. There's 40 episodes. It is made to sell toys to children.
Yep, you cannot escape that fact. In literally every episode, the Voltes V will it'll form, or if it doesn't form, there's there's a reason why it didn't form, and then it's gonna basically spin tops.
It'll use all of its special attacks, which are advertising the features of the toy.
Yep.
It will use the same special moves, right? Or get new special moves. There's stock animation sequences of it transforming or doing special attacks that are repeated every episode. Sometimes more than once per episode, it'll have to combine. It's basically showing kids all the different ways they can play with this toy. The Voltes V, which is 5 vehicles, right? Form that you can combine into a robot in kind of a not great way. It's like, I think at this point in time, like they probably still weren't great at making the combining toys, right? This predates like the Transformers Devastator. It predates Voltron, obviously, right? Which predates
or Mask, which had the most complex transforming toys.
It predates Macross Valkyries, right? So it's the way in which the toy functions and thus the way it appears in the show is very inelegant, right? It's like the legs and the waist are just like one big U-shaped boat thing.
They go to great pains to show you like, no, this makes sense when like the cockpit of the main guy will like rotate twice.
Yeah. The feet are like come off and combine into a vehicle and then separate and just stick on the bottom as 2 feet. Like someone's like the ninja girl's job is to pilot the feet. The 2 arms are vehicles and the rest of it is just one vehicle. The head and torso is all one vehicle. So it's not very elegant. It's kind of cool, right? It's called the Voltes V. I think that might have been just they tried to use English and it's just the Volts 5, like volts as in electricity, because it's powered by electromagnetism.
Yep, the translation of the name is Super Electromagnetic Machine Voltes V.
Right, Voltes V. And it's called Voltes V because it has 5 pilots, just like Voltron. It even has, / Go Lion, this main white dude, right? There's big dude. There's jerky dude in blue. It's even the same color.
There's
right?
kid
main
dude.
Red. Yeah, little
and
kid,
there's the lady.
Right? Little kid is in green, and then girl, right? It's from 1970. The sexism and other problems of 1970s Japanese kids show cannot be overlooked.
They're there.
They are there in full force. And that's what the show is it's Monster of the Week, right? How do they form a team to fight an alien invading force that sends evil beast knights, right? In Voltron, it was Robeasts, I guess, that came in those awesome coffins that would land. Here, the bad guys basically are just building beast knights and sending them to fight. Monster of the Week. And Voltes V wins every week somehow, unless it's a 2-parter or something. Yep. And then that's the show. I don't know what happens at the end because I'm only 17 episodes in. Rim's only
7
less than that. Yeah.
And I guess I don't think we want to like explain the plot and the characters to you, but I have a lot of
the plot just now.
Yeah, but there's like the nuances, like who each character has their deal. Like the jerky guy on the team is an American cowboy who uses a whip. And he's a jerk, but then he becomes less of a jerk
or I don't know if he's Japanese and he spent time in the U.S. or if he's actually American.
It wasn't super clear, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Well, his mom blew herself up to kill those wolves.
That's true.
But the impressions I had were that, one, I want to get back to this after we talk about more impressions. The meta plot is shockingly more complex than it possibly even, like, they did not need to have that much backstory in this show or that much consistency. Like, the early parts of the show, because I do know some some things that happened toward the end of the show just from knowledge of the show. The meta plot is way more complex than you'd realize, and every episode reveals little bits of it. Like, early on, like, these Beast Knights come down, but then you learn, I want to say in like episode 3 or 4, that the evil aliens put brains of their own people into these things. Like, and that is not a piece of information to forget. That actually seems to matter a lot as the plot goes on.
Yeah, so I think that's the 2 significant things about this show that make it stand out from your typical fight monsters every week. Because I actually think in a lot of ways this show is more, despite being older and having a crappier toy.
Oh, it's better than later Monster of the Week shows.
Yeah, is more advanced even than Go Lion and other shows. And for these reasons, number one, Voltron takes place in like this future, like empty planet, basically. This bad guy's attacking. It's literally just Monster of the Week.
It's a lot like Thundercats, like this, or even He-Man to a degree. Like this planet is sparse.
Thundercats has more of a plot that goes on, right?
Yeah, but very little of that is revealed episode by episode.
Well, I remember you didn't see the beginning of Thundercats, but yeah,
I know. After the beginning, a lot of the later shows would refine. They'd have the beginning episodes.
Thundercats has the pattern of plot episodes and non-plot episodes, right?
This show has something happens in every episode.
Voltron has almost no plot episodes.
Yeah.
In Voltes V, every episode I've seen is a plot episode. There is not just a Monster of the Week, but something significant happens in every episode. Sometimes the significant thing is simply character development, but it's not little character development. It'll be like big development for one character, right? In some episodes, it will be like, okay, it was just Monster of the Week, but there was a significant danger. Like they were like getting really ruined. Like the base got messed up.
Well, like episode 2, the base almost collapses. Their mom, I guess spoilers, fucking gets into a fighter jet and kamikazes the beast to buy them time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Some episodes, characters die, and it's like, yeah, Voltron, there's like one guy who dies, spoilers, but then that's kind of it. Here, someone died, and someone else died. It's like significant primary characters are getting the axe, right?
Yep.
Like, shit goes down in Voltes V on a frequent basis, and it's like, there is like stuff that like messes with you all the time. Like, whoa, this show is really going hardcore. There was one episode, right? And is the second significant thing, I'll tie it in here, right? Is that this show actually takes place on an Earth, a theoretical future Earth that looks a lot like, not really that far future in Earth.
Yep.
But like, Earth actually matters. Like there was a whole episode that was political where like the UN equivalent gets together and they can't agree.
Yep.
And then the diplomats all get endangered, right? And Voltes has to come and save them. And then they all agree to like actually, ally against, the aliens. And
even the beginning, it's like it's like there's a lot of science fiction and environmental storytelling and like world building. Like the global militaries are aligned differently from the current like real world, and they all try to fight these things.
It's like, is it deep? No, but for a selling kids toys show, it's deep. Right?
Well, it's deeper like than you might realize.
It's like if you went to a kiddie pool, right? And it's like, yes, this is a kiddie pool. This is not the real pool. It's not the deep end. It's a kiddie pool. But you get in and suddenly a kiddie pool usually is like what? Not even a foot deep usually, right? Imagine if the kiddie pool you stepped in and you were up to your waist. Like that's surprising. Like, you don't expect a kiddie pool to be that deep.
What I know about the actual show, because I had the plot described to me before I watched it, but what was described to me is like way later plot. The home planet of these aliens matters a lot.
Oh, yes, it does. There is basically...
How did Dr. Go know that they were coming? That is like a whole fucking thing.
Three of the people in the robot, the three, right, are basically sons of these two scientists. One of whom is that mom who Rim mentioned doing a kamikaze. And the other one is Dr. Go, who you never see in the show, at least not at the start. And you know that he knew the aliens were coming, and therefore he built Voltes V to defend the Earth from the aliens he knew were coming. And then he went off into space. And you got to assume he went to meet the aliens out there in space. And then stuff happens in episodes I saw recently that show that the aliens at least know Dr. Go exists.
Yep.
And know what he looks like, and something is up, right? And it's like, Voltron doesn't have anything like that. I don't know.
And in a lot of ways, and this is the biggest takeaway, watch that for, even if you don't want to watch a stupid kids show like this, watch the first episode, and then go rewatch the first episode of Evangelion. They're honestly almost the same thing. Like, the base they're defending is Nerve to a T. Like the way they defend it, the dynamic of like all the people.
Also, I think the difference is the base is clearly a toy. Nerve is not a toy.
I mean, yeah, but it's still like those scenes are very similar to the scenes when Nerve headquarters is under attack. The
Yep.
Dr. Go, big Gendo vibes in terms of the militaries of the world all trying to fight this new menace and they can't. And then they turn to that scientist who had a secret project going all along. There are so many parallels. Evangelion was 100% riffing on like the setup of this show and shows like it.
Yep. The last thing I got to say about the show is that, you know, it is significantly hardcore.
When Voltes 5 kills a Beast Knight, like that is a brutal scene with that sword.
Right. Voltes 5 takes out a sword just like to cut the bad guy as like its finishing blow, right? You know that when the sword comes out, like the bad guy's good, the Beast Knight's going down, right?
Yep.
Voltes 5, when he does the V attack with the sword, hits the Beast Knight in its shoulder or whatever its shoulder.
Now remember, we learned later these Beast Knights have sentient brains implanted into them.
Right. These Beast Knights also come in. They're really fun and creative. The lots of different shapes and sizes. The episode I just watched, the Beast Knight was a flying Triceratops. Voltes eventually clips its wings and it becomes a regular Triceratops. But they're always an interesting shape and size, and they always like animate them. Like there's the stock footage of the combinations, but the battles are not stock footage. They're not great animation. It's 1970s TV.
But they're real fights.
Yeah, they're animating kind of in a pro wrestling kind of fashion, right? The real pro wrestling vibe in the battles. But yeah, Voltes will take its sword, hit the enemy in its shoulder equivalent, slice down at an angle to near its groin navel area, twist the sword around,
and you see the twist. It is like a visceral twist.
They highlight the twisting of the sword, like it's and just you imagine like a sword twisting in your guts, like and then we'll pull the sword back up out the other shoulder, making a V-shaped cut because it's Voltes 5, Roman numeral V, right? And it's like the sword V attack or whatever. And then the enemy will explode like it just got Fist of the North Star. And this happens every episode. It is brutal. But not just that brutality, but like characters are getting shot. There are like times where like, the enemies will be like stabbing and you'll see like the enemies like stabs like come into the cockpit and almost hit the pilots.
Yep. Right? Or remember when there's the sword wielding demon knight that has that sword, the special magic sword, and the one dude has to train to learn how to fight the sword, and that training is him getting like that. The amount of physical injury that is animated on him in that episode is very surprising.
Now, the one incongruous, there's a lot of incongruous things because it's a kid's show, but the biggest one for me is that the start of the show, not a spoiler, the bad guys invade and they destroy the shit out of Earth. Like they wreck it. Like it's like, what is even left on Earth, right? And then in another episode, it's like the kid goes to a model boat sailing contest in Tokyo, and it's like,
and everything's normal.
You're having model boat sailing contest. Tokyo still exists? I'm pretty sure it got destroyed.
Well, I mean, the kids were still going to school in Evangelion for some reason.
Maybe, but they were going like the nerve school in the protected area, right? Not in the city, not in Tokyo. Anyway, but then friggin' Tokyo gets destroyed, right? And it's like, okay, well now Tokyo's destroyed. It's like, no, then it's back to normal. They don't seem to like keep like that world is destroyed thing the way that like Space Battleship Yamato is like, yeah, the world is destroyed.
Well, I think part of the way that seems to fit in is that the aliens show up and are fucking up Earth and ready to rock. But then when Voltes 5, the Evangelion, appears, they back off. They're like, oh shit, there's an actually dangerous thing here. We can't just take over. And they sort of like retreat to their like sanctum to deal with that threat before they resume the invasion.
Right. Now, the final thing that really makes me like this show quite a bit is that, when you watch a kid's show, right, it's like, why don't the bad guys just do this?
Oh my God.
Why don't the bad guys just do that, right?
Moment I was watching an episode and I thought, wow, the way this show is structured, if they just sent 2 Beast Knights at one time, like they're fucked. It's over. Game over. This is a kid's show. They should just send 2 Beast Knights. Literally the next episode, they send 2 Beast Knights and they almost win because of that.
Exactly. That's what it's like. The bad guys in this show are not fools, right?
Yeah.
They are actually.
It's not Skeletor fucking up over and over and over again. Imagine if Skeletor was like, well, that didn't work. Let's try a different plan.
They're not failing from incompetence, right? They're failing, due to simply, Voltes 5 and the Falcon team. Falcon's the base, right? like going all out and using, you know, the ingenuity and strength and whatever of humanity to like come through the impossible odds, right?
Yep.
The bad guys are not fools. Like they are constantly, they're like, what if we could just stop Voltes 5 from combining? It would be 5 separate shitty vehicles. They do it.
Yep.
Right.
Oh wait, what? The kid's off on his own. They send a Beast Knight literally just to murder the kid, like
Yep,
immediately.
They're like, oh, why did that one vehicle leave the base to go on its own? Let's go get it. It's Voltes separated. Let's go, right? The bad guys are not fools. They go all out. They do not hold back in trying to destroy Voltes 5, you know, and Voltes 5, you know, comes really close to losing compared to other big robots I've seen.
Yep.
And it only wins by like the skin of its teeth. Obviously,
like in one episode, one of the Beast like actually breaks through that shield. You know that scene in Ava near the very end where an angel busts into the room and is like Misato's looking up at it, and everyone just freezes, and it's about to do its thing. One of the Beasts kind of does the same thing to the base, and they barely survive, and it's a pretty good scene. They animate that Beast like beating the shit out of the base too.
Yeah. So and like the base like got messed up. Like they couldn't get out from one scene I watched recently. You didn't see this. They couldn't open the gates to get to fly the Voltes vehicles out of the.
I saw that one. I think that happens in an episode I saw.
Oh, okay. And
they're like, fuck it, to shoot missiles at it, and they blow up the gate.
Exactly. They just blew up the front of the base and flew out. And then later, the front of the base is like still blown up.
Yep. Or also, like one episode I was thinking, why do they even have all these defenses? They just animate these defenses getting destroyed by the Beast every episode. The next episode, they had a stronger missile that actually like gave the Beast pause.
Yeah, and they have like the tops. At first, the tops kind of are garbage. I'm like, why just pull out the sword right away?
Yep.
Sometimes they do just pull out the sword right away. Sometimes they do just combine right away.
One time, he uses the top spinning thing to spin.
To combine.
He like
other items work.
They spin a different thing, not the top. They spin like some projectile that the Beast shot at them.
Right. It's like they're getting creative and not just doing the same stuff every time in the battle portions. Because usually, this kind of show, you just want to see the other parts and fast forward the battle because the battle's the same boring thing every time. So yeah, Voltes 5 has a lot going on. I think, I'm not going to say I recommend it because it is a kid's show to sell you a toy. Right?
I would watch this before I would watch Go Lion.
Yeah, I mean, this is a show so far from what I've seen. If you're gonna watch a show to sell kids toys, why not this one? Right?
And
but
honestly,
if you're not gonna watch such a show, don't watch any of them.
But if you're an anime fan at all, like if you actually like think about and care about anime specifically, watch one episode of this and watch the first episode of Evangelion again and do a compare and contrast. Like, trust me.
Or watch one episode of Go Lion also, right?
Yeah.
A random one, because a lot of them are more similar to each other.
But this show, like, if you skip, like, I thought, like, I watched 7 episodes. I was like, I should skip ahead and watch, like, a random episode from, like, a few later so I could, like, have more to talk about on the show. I skipped a few episodes ahead and I have no fucking idea what's going on anymore.
Yeah, the status, there is no, like, solid status quo. It's like they keep changing it.
Yeah.
And that, under more normal circumstances of this kind of show, wouldn't have kept watching. But this one I did. So
yeah, the fact that we both kept
show?
watching and didn't just watch the minimum 4 and then do this show is telling.
Right, yeah. So it's on Crunchyroll. You can just go watch it. And that's that. Voltes 5, however you want to pronounce it. Chōdenji